to another Maximum RD presentation.
Hello folks, welcome back to another Maximum RD video. This time we're going to be taking a look at Commodore's Wonder Machine, the CD32. This particular unit was manufactured in January of '94, and of course, as with most of the items I have, I obtained it from eBay a little while back. Yeah, it's interesting in that it was Commodore's attempt to conquer the 32-bit CD console market, and we all know how that turned out, obviously. But anyways, for the Amiga faithful, this was still quite a wondrous machine, because in fact, what it really is a good old AMIGA 1200 computer. Basically, you take an AMIGA 1200, you rip the keyboard off, you add an optical drive, and yeah, you pretty much have this machine here. It has the same AGA graphics, the same 68020 stock processor, but of course, you know, redesigned to be more console-like. You know, you lift the lid here, stick in your games on CD, boot them right up. But a great thing about it is there were a number of expansions available. If you remove this screw here and took this little piece off the back, you could add a SX1, I think it was called, or SX32. There's a few other ones by various companies, but they were all pretty much the same. In what they did was they added pretty much standard Amiga ports, your RGB out to a Commodore monitor, also serial, parallel, and you could also, in the expansion, add a 2 1/4 inch hard drive, and then of course from there you could install an operating system, and basically, oh yeah, and basically add a keyboard and a mouse and one of these expansion units, and you'd have a full Amiga 1200, but one, of course, that was capable of reading optical discs. So in that aspect, it was quite a great machine, especially if you were already an Amiga fan, which I've always been a Commodore and Amiga fan. So anyways, taking a quick look at the back here, have your on-off switch, your power connector, your standard RF output. This is an NTSC model, obviously, me being in Canada. And S video out here, composite video, your standard RCA plug type composite video out, as well as your left and right stereo audio channels, RCA type phono connectors right there. So yeah, it was all ready to hook up to your standard television or VCR, as the case may be, and tune in to you know, play some games on this CD system. Lift the lid just like that, insert a game like Super Skid Marks. It's a great little race game right there. And then basically plug in a compatible pad. Now this isn't the standard one that came with the unit. This is a Competition Pro model. Much better than the standard one that came with it, which was actually pretty horrific, the one manufactured by Commodore. But this is by a company called Honeybee, and they made better third-party controllers with added features like rapid fire and programmable buttons, you know, so on and so forth. The problem with my particular one, unfortunately, is it doesn't work very well. And even after taking it apart and having a look at it, I think time has just worn it out. Maybe some abusive use from the previous owner. So, but anyways, so that kind of sucks. This little device here, this is kind of funny thing actually. It's for a, you would plug one end into a standard AT power supply, you know, the old power supplies for PCs, and apparently then you could plug this in into the back of your Commodore CD32, and I guess then you had another connector for some other peripheral maybe that you've added with your expansion port on the back. I never got any use out of this because, well, I never had an AT connector, and I just thought it was something, an adapter that might come in handy for me should the original Commodore power supply something happen to it, but never did end up using it. And now, you know, you don't really see the old AT power supplies for a PC, so I don't know if I ever will. But anyways, another odd little thing here is this device. Now this can plug into the this plugs into the side of the unit. I believe it's this side. Yeah, this plugs into the side of the unit right here, and it adds a keyboard pass-through connector, an infrared sensor right there, and a modem actually. Now what's funny about this is this, alongside a remote, which I actually don't have, hooked up to the CD32, and it was actually used in Canada as a means of online banking services. So I had never heard of it at the time that it was available. I don't believe it was very widely distributed or used, but that was the concept behind that. So it's just kind of an odd piece that came with it. I did some research and found out about it, and that's what I found out. But anyways, that's just an extra piece. And let's see what else. Oh, on this side, of course, you have an auxiliary connector. That's a keyboard connector. And then ports 1 and 2 for your standard compatible gaming pads. Now here's an interesting note. If you stuck a mouse into port 2 and held down the 2 mouse buttons, and this is a Commodore Amiga mouse, and held down these 2 buttons while it was booting, you would get what's called the early startup screen. From there, you could select either various features, different chipsets for different compatibility, also PAL or NTSC mode, again for compatibility purposes on different titles. But the funny thing was, of course, that was just a leftover. As I mentioned, the guts of this machine is really nothing more than an AMIGA 1200 computer, and these were the features that were built into the ROM of the 1200, or the Kickstart, and they just carried over into the Commodore AMIGA CD32 because it uses the same chipset internally. So kind of a neat feature there. Lastly, we come to your standard 80s power supply, Commodore, nice little brick here, and this is the standard power supply that came with the Commodore AMIGA CD32. So that was my quick look at the Commodore AMIGA CD32. Of course, at some point in the future, I'd like to show you some actual gameplay videos. One of the downsides is I don't have a Commodore monitor. I mean, obviously it has composite output, so I could probably record some NTSC titles for you. I'm sure I have some of those, and I will do that. But I'm hoping at someday in the future I'll be able to either get an adapter. I'm aware of something I believe called the InDivision AGA adapter or something like that. It's also Amiga available for the Amiga 4000 computer, but can actually be used and fitted internally into this unit and allow it to display on any PC monitor. So I might look into that, but it's a bit costly, and in most cases, once again, you know, it's all about priorities. Like, I could get that, or I could get how many more older game systems that I don't even have. I don't know. So I'm sure it's something hopefully to come in the future. But yeah, I will show you some of the titles hopefully sometime soon in the future. But I just wanted to give you a quick look at this machine right here, Commodore AMIGA CD32. I loved it. Great machine. Lots of fun games, although unfortunately a lot of the titles released for it were nothing more than ports of original Amiga games with a slightly beefed up soundtrack and maybe a little bit of enhanced graphics. That's what you call shovelware, when they just poured a bunch of stuff over without really making use of the extra features of the newer hardware. So that's it for now. That's just a quick little look at the Commodore CD32. Hope you enjoyed it. Be back soon with another Maximum RD video.